Okay, let's start. Time is 5 o'clock. Happy and safe evening. This is Nambi from Consultant Consortium of Chennai. On behalf of Triple C, I welcome you all for the fifth seminar on food defense and food fraud. Seminar will be presented by Mr. Sonia Shani and co-presented by Mr. Yogesh Jain. They have already conducted a wonderful seminar on allergen management last week. Madam, please, second slide. Yeah. This is about Triple C. Consultants Consortium of Chennai is an association of management systems consultant registered under the Tamil Nadu Societies Registration Act 1975. The objective of Triple C is to work in alignment with the National Quality Mission launched by the Government of India by educating the industry about the role and importance of standards, certifications, and regulations in the country as well as in the global markets. Triple C strives to encourage responsible consulting through members of its association, and focus is to standardize consulting practices in alignment with changing market and industry needs in a dynamic manner. The focus is also to identify areas and industries in which the consultants in the profession of management system consulting can contribute to the betterment of the society and the country, and to promote management system consulting in such areas or industries. One of the core objectives is to collaborate with various industry platforms, trade associations, chambers of commerce, management association, apex bodies of government or quasi-government organization to contribute to the betterment of any industry initiatives, which will in turn contribute to the betterment of the society. Thank you. Second next. World Accreditation Day is a global initiative established by ELAC and IF. This year's theme is how accreditation improves food safety. Accreditation has an important role in food safety by ensuring competent and impartial inspection, certification, and testing services in all parts of local, national, and international food chains. In doing so, accreditation supports the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, in particular the Good Health and Well-being Goal. Accreditation can be applied to a wide variety of assessment, approval, or evaluation tasks, and is used by business, government, and regulators to help deliver a safer world. Thank you. Mr. Alok Jain, please take over from here.
Thank you, Mr. Nambi. Good evening, everyone. This is Alok Jain. I'm Director and Head of Training and Capacity Building Division of Quality Council of India. As mentioned by Mr. Nambi, June 9 is marked as the World Accreditation Day, which is an initiative of ILAC and IAF, International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation and International Accreditation Forum. This year, the focus is on how accreditation improves the food safety. So appreciating the efforts of Consultant Consortium of Chennai, the way they are celebrating this VAT this year by having a series of webinars on food safety. I also thank Consortium to give an opportunity to introduce this new division of Quality Council of India. As you know, Quality Council of India is having various boards responsible for the accreditation in the different sectors, like NABCB for the certification bodies and inspection bodies, NABL for laboratories, NABH for hospital and healthcare providers, and so on. Training and Capacity Building Division is a new division which comes under the ambit of Quality Council of India, and to take care of the need of all the stakeholders in the various domains. So we have already announced a number of programs, and we are working closely with the Consultants Consortium of Chennai to come into the new area of training, and soon we will come up with our schedule also. Thank you very much, Mr. Nambi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Ms. Sonia, madam, can you please take over from here? Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, very good evening to everybody and a warm welcome to all of you. Starting with my brief introduction, I'm Sonia Sani. By education, I'm a food technologist, around 24 years experience in food sector, postgraduate or MBA in HRD. I'm having total 12 years industrial experience in different food sectors. From last 12 years, I'm in this field of management system consultancy, auditing and trainings, and lead auditor for various management system. Specifically, my core field is quality management system and food safety management system. Also attached with QCI as a NBQP, approved FSMS consultant and APIDA FSMS consultant. Associated with FSSI as a NLRP or a trainer for FOSTEC, plus running my own consultancy firm for different food safety management system. I'm based at Jaipur presently, and the core area of working is all over India we are working. Thank you very much. Today with me, I am having co-presenter Mr. Yogesh. I would request him to introduce himself, give a brief introduction. Yogesh, over to you.
Good evening, madam.
Yeah,
I am associated with CCC Consultants since practically inception when they started the all India joining of consultants. I am B Mechanical, MS in Consultancy Management from BITS Pilani, did my MTech in Future Studies and Planning. I have overall 27 years of experience, of which 4 years was in industry and 23 years in management system, specifically in consulting. I am certified lead auditor for various food as well as other management standards like ISO 9001, 14001, 45001. We have done 3-4 BRC packaging assignments also. I have done consulting for dairy, brewery, distillery, soybean plants, flour mill, spice processing, etc. This is my brief introduction. Over to Madam Sani. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yogesh. Am I audible enough?
Yes, yes.
Just any. Okay, thank you. Now, coming directly to the subject, today our topic of presentation is related to food defense, food fraud, and application of TASSUP and HACCP. Now, these subjects are very wide subjects. Actually, you cannot cover or have full understanding of these subjects in a few minutes or an hour, because it needs a lot of understanding related to all motivations, related to all risk management and mitigation plan. But we'll try to complete or to have at least basic understanding of the important terms which are being used under these categories, and overall outline of the process of TASSUP, BESUP, what are the basic critical controls required, and the overall objective of these particular TASSUP, BESUP, and food defense and food fraud. Now, if you see, because these subjects are very new, HACCP is still quite old subject and everybody is following it. But this subject is totally new for FBOs, and this subject has a very wide applicability. Now, if you see many literatures, researchers' view related to these, you will find different views of them. Some researchers take it as a subset of a food safety. They consider this food defense and food fraud under food safety part itself. Some researchers have a distinct view that it is a totally different subject from food safety. So you will find different kinds of views when you search in the internet or in the various literatures. So my only submission is that we should not get confused with these things, because there are so many, because this subject is still evolving. So we should not get confused with these things, because ultimate objective is to provide a safe food to my consumer. Okay, consumer is not bothered if he is getting unsafe food because of lapses in food safety or due to some food fraud or lapses in the food defense plan. So the ultimate aim is to have a safe food with the customer or consumer. So overall, if you see, so this system is required for every FBOs. Again, the level of strictness may vary depending upon your type of industry, products, and location. But definitely it is a part of a complete food security or food control system. So overall, if we see under the umbrella of food safety or food control, there are three basic concepts. One is HACCP, everybody is aware of it. We have already completed this session on this. So HACCP is basically to prevent the unintentional or accidental adulteration or contamination, you can say. TASSUP is for prevention of intentional adulteration. And VESUP is again the prevention of intentional adulteration. So these two topics, though they are different, but they have a common element that both of them deals with the intentional adulteration. Now, they differ in objective. In VESUP, the ultimate objective of this kind of intentional adulteration is to have an economical gain. So it is called as an economically motivated thing. While in TASSUP, it may be behaviorally or ideologically motivated, because the ultimate objective is to harm. Now that harm could be for consumer, customer, or the overall organization itself. So overall, if you see, a complete food control system covers all these three topics. So 4 elements of a food control system. First of all, as we discussed, food defense. again, which is ideological, motivated, intentional adulteration that makes the food injurious to health. So it involves the element of harm to the consumer. Food fraud, again, it is economically motivated intentional adulteration. So it is also an intentional but economically motivated that may or may not make the food injurious to health, because the ultimate objective is to gain money out of it, to earn out of it. So it may be injurious, it may not be injurious. It may lead to some quality issues. So food fraud issues may have overlapping with the food defense or food safety, or with the food quality control system, food quality issues. Again, food safety, as we discussed, it is considered as an unintentional contamination of food that makes food injurious to health. Food quality is related to quality attributes that affects the product value to the consumer. So overall food control system in any food industry, any manufacturer, any FBO comprises of all these three important elements. So the same in the pictorial representation. So overall we can divide into two parts: intentional addition, you can say, of adulteration, and unintentional. So under unintentional we take food safety like HACCP, which is there to prevent it, and a food quality issue. Under intentional we have these both terms, food fraud and food defense. I am giving a lot of stress on this so that you can understand the difference with the normal food safety issues and the issues which are included in the food crime. So in food fraud, again, it is intentional for economic gain, and food defense is carried out again intentionally for causing some kind of harm. Now these food crimes or these intentional adulterations, deliberate contamination, definitely requires human intervention. It cannot be done without the involvement of the people in it. So for which we apply this HACCP and TACCP. Overall introduction. Now, whenever there is such kind of deliberate act, the main thing which is involved is people. Who all could be there? It may be within a food business, like you're all employees, or it could be any worker or something. It may be employees of a supplier, or people, or employees of a contractor who are regularly visiting your site. So employees of a supplier to the food business, or it may be complete outsiders which may not have any direct connection with your food business. And what is the key issue which motivates them to do this? First of all, to cause harm to human health, to affect the masses, to affect the business reputation of any organization. And another is again to make some financial gain at the interest of this business. So as a food business operator in such situation, it is the interest of the food business to protect themselves from such attacks. Whatever it be motivation, whosoever will be involved, the ultimate objective for any food business is to protect themselves from these kind of attacks. So the purpose of TACCP and VACCP in this context is, first of all, to minimize the chance of an attack. And by any chance, any attack happened, to mitigate or to minimize the consequence of a successful attack. Through various approaches, through various procedures, through various guidelines, HACCP and TACCP purpose is to minimize the chance of that particular attack. Now this TACCP and VACCP, again, they are not a kind of, apart from other processes. It should complement the existing risk management business, because every organization nowadays, especially who are into various other management system, all management system latest are based on the risk based thinking or risk management processes. So this VACCP and TACCP also needs to be integrated with that business risk management and incident management processes. They cannot be treated as a separate thing. It is good or better to integrate or merge with the existing, you can say, your emergency or incident management processes. And definitely it's a well-known fact that nobody can guarantee that food and food supply can never, my food business can never be the target of any criminal activity or any terrorist activity. Okay, so we cannot have 100% assurity in this, but definitely with the application of this TACCP and VACCP, we can make it less likely. We can decrease the likelihood or lower the severity or the impact of that particular attack with the application of these kind of processes. Again, the important term food defense we have already discussed. These are the procedures to assure the security of food. Insider. These are the terms which are actually commonly used in these systems or these subjects. So that is why we are just trying to understand that insider means any individual which is within the organization, associated with an organization which has an access to our assets and who may misuse those you can say assets and become a threat to the organization or its operations. Personal security is actually, it involves the cautious recruitment of your staff, your workers. So it includes the procedure used to confirm an individual's identity, qualification, experience, very important, his background, and to monitor regularly his conduct as an employee or contractor. So this also is a very important part of this particular system. Food fraud, we already discussed, when something deliberately placed on the market for financial gain, again with the intention of deceiving or fooling the consumer, you can say. Now, food fraud, there are different motivations, different kinds of food fraud which can be happen in the industries. But two main types which are considered are, first is sale of food. So this is a part of food, very important part of food fraud. We are selling some product. First of all, either it is an expired product, or it is harmful in the sense that it is unfit, it is not fit for human consumption, or it is not of food grade quality. Okay, or anything which is banned, which is not allowed, which is toxic, and still we are selling it in the name of food. Another important type of food fraud is deliberate misdescription of food. Means we are miscommunicating about the food. Okay, we are selling a basmati rice, but it is not a pure basmati, it is mixed with the cheaper varieties. So that kind of, again, food fraud is very common. Another thing in food fraud, it also involves the sale of some products like meat or from animals that have been stolen or illegally slaughtered. Okay, so illegal slaughtering, in illegal processes by which food is produced and sold also comes under the food fraud thing. Now, the other types of food fraud, we can have these 6-7 types of food fraud which are commonly, you can have n number of examples for this, like dilution, very common. We are diluting the product, like olive oil diluted with potentially toxic tea tree oil. This is a common problem. Similarly, milk diluted with water. Then another kind of fraud is substitution. So some part of the raw material, because some part of the material which is costly, it's substituted by low cost ingredient. So sunflower oil partially substituted with mineral oil, that is considered as a substitution. Concealment means we are concealing a particular defect or a problem with the food, like harmful colorings. These are added to the fruits and vegetables to conceal its defect. Then mislabeling, it's very much clear. Mislabeling, we are miscommunicating any information related to the product. Product is made with something else and we are labeling something else. Then even sale of excess unreported product. Again, it may not have food safety concern, as I told you. That also comes under the food fraud. Gray market production, theft, diversion, unapproved enhancement. Again, we are adding or increasing the nutritional value by some banned products or which are not allowed in the food. This thing, like use of unauthorized additives, melamine added to enhance protein content. So these are few examples we are taking. Then counterfeiting. This is again a very common thing. It's a kind of duplication of the popular brands. This is again commonly we find examples in the market. Copy of the popular food. So these are the different types of food fraud which are actually prevalent, and we have to see, depending upon my type of product, my type of industry, which can be commonly done. So these, as a manufacturer, these food frauds can be done from your supplier related to your raw material and packing material, specifically raw material. So you have to see which raw material is vulnerable for these kind of food frauds. That is the first part when you start working on these systems. Then vulnerability assessment, as I was telling, it is a systematic management of risk through the identification and evaluation of vulnerability of raw materials and packing materials. So in this particular system, we basically concentrate on our raw materials, because food fraud of the food from raw material can be a very common thing for my industry, because I know what I am manufacturing. I am not doing any food fraud in my processing or anything. So the highest risk is with my raw material. Now the important term is threat. Threat, everybody must be knowing the meaning: something that can cause loss or harm which arises from the ill intent of the people. And for threat, we have this TASAP, threat assessment critical control point. Again, it is the systematic management of risk through evaluation of threats, identification where we are vulnerable, and implementation of control. Now this TASAP is required to apply starting from your supply chain, from your purchasing till your distribution network, because these kind of threats which can affect my food safety can be at any point. It can be starting from purchasing till the distribution of my product. It is not only related to the processes which are within my factory or within my specific area. And this TASAP, it needs a teamwork. So first thing which generally organizations, when they start applying TASAP, they make a TASAP team like we used to do in HACCP. Now these are different types of threat, just to have a basic understanding, because I cannot go in such a small time detail of everything. But at least before we apply controls, before we think of mitigation plans, we should understand what type of threats are there and what type of threats can affect my type of industry. Again, first foremost is economical motivated adulteration, which is again a part of food fraud as well, to have a financial gains. Then that malicious contamination is again an intentional adulteration. Okay, the overall objective of this is to have to give harm to the masses, to the people, public who are consuming that food. Extortion is like, you know, everybody understands the word blackmailing. So a blackmailing or extorting money from the organization in the name, okay, they are a famous brand, so some kind of complaint we raise, maybe fake or something, and then we try to gain financially, to obtain money from the victim organization. Espionage, now this is related to, you can say, to affect the confidentiality of the target organization. We want to take some commercial advantages to assess, to have access to their intellectual property. For example, all big brands have their confidential formulations. Like Maggi, they have a confidential this formulation for their seasoning. Similarly, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Thumbs Up, they all have different tastes because they have a distinct, unique formulation for their concentrates. So these kind of threats can also be there, that somebody have commercial advantage to access your intellectual property. This can be actually combined with a cyber crime. Either some internal insider can do this, or somebody have access to their system and can do a theft on this. Then again, counterfeiting. Again, you know that if you do such type of this thing, financial gain, so you pass off inferior goods are established and you affect the reputation of the brand, because you know any such publicity will affect their business. So that is an again kind of threat. So few of them may directly affect the food safety, few of them are for financial gains, but definitely every type of threat has an effect on the consumer. Similarly, we have the way we have different types of threat, we have different types of attackers. They have different types of objectives in mind, but all of them definitely is going to affect my product. This is only when I start implementing or following or studying these things, I need to go into those details. So similarly, I'm not again going into detail of all these, just to have a basic understanding. Extremist means extremists who want to cause some harm and want to enjoy that publicity. Their objective may not be financial. Irrational means he doesn't have any rational or a particular objective, but they want to do some kind of harm just to enjoy it. So these kind of people are asked, maybe have some mental health issues. Similarly, extortionist, we have already discussed. We try to extort money from the victim organization on the name of publicity, bad publicity. Disgruntled means somebody is revengeful. It may be my previous or ex-employee who believe that he is not properly treated and he wants to take revenge on the organization. So this kind of individual or target targets they have in their mind. Then professional criminality is easy for any professional. For any objective out of this, they can hire some professional criminal. Then opportunities again is most of the time insider, who is at a very powerful position, access to most of the things in the organization, but they are looking for some opportunity to again cause and harm to the organization. So these types of different, we call them as attackers, aggressors. These are also should be considered when we go for these kind of systems. So TASAP, very important in threat assessment. Two key features are there. First of all, we have to see motivation and capability of an attacker or group. What motivation could be there? Now, if it is a single individual, it is still maybe less. That's just an assumption, but you cannot be 100% on this. Then if it is a single person, impact may be less. If it is a group of people who are involved, like any terrorism activity, definitely impact could be much higher. Then the second important feature is my vulnerability, my industry vulnerability of the target impact assessment. So these are the two main features when you start applying TASAP, so you have to consider. So definitely, as we discussed, it involves intentional contamination, requires human intervention, no doubt on this. Now we have many examples of adulteration all over the world. So these are few examples with the Indian experiences. So most of you must be knowing about these kind of adulterations, like rice adulterated with marble chips, milk with diluted water, detergent, fat, even urea, tea leaves with some other kind of leaves which may not be edible. Again, similarly, coffee seeds with tamarind seeds, mustard seeds. Even colored and textural vegetables are often colored. This is a very common, we see a very good color, apple or watermelon. So they can be often colored with different dyes, substances. Again, sweets with khoya, chena, they can be adulterated with starch. Again, in dals, most common adulteration is in arhar dal, adulterated with maternal yellow. So these are different adulterations. So again, depending upon the type of product I am handling, as a food business operator, we should think what could be the point and what could be the adulterations, intentional adulterations can be done with my type of product. So FSSAI has given a very good, taken a very good initiative and given this pink book which contains this DART book for easy detection of the adulteration. So there are few rapid tests, you can anytime refer to this also for identifying different adulterations. Now coming to the TASAP and WASAP process. Now we understood that okay, these could be the motivations of food fraud, food defense. These could be the type of attackers which can affect us. Now we have to think of those particular threats and then start applying the TASAP and WASAP process. Again, like any other system, we always start with the team. So it's the duty of team to meet its need and plan for the control measures. So whenever they start working in, very important thing is they have to start thinking like a criminal. If you see in a broader sense, these TASAP, WASAP, food fraud, food defense may not need that technical knowledge, but definitely your smartness, your anticipative nature, your other things, identifying the threats and risks. So you have to start thinking like a criminal. So when you start working on this, try to answer these basic 4 questions. Who might want to attack us? Who could be my probable attackers? Then how might they do it? So what are the areas where they can attack? Where are we vulnerable? Where are the points where we are weak, where we can be easily targeted or attacked? So you have to see that. Then how can we stop them? So these 4 particular questions you can always ask for every kind of threat you identify. And again, I stress that you have to think like a criminal. Okay, to stop any attack or to identify any threat or crime, you also have to think like a criminal. So this is a overall TASAP process. Again, just an overview of it, that we make a team. Then any new information, any new thing which is happening in the industry, in my company, should be assessed. We should not leave it as it is. Then identify and assess threats to organization. Now, whatever identification and assessment we are doing in terms of people, because as we know, it includes, it human intervention is mandatory for these things. So we have to assess who all persons or group of persons can be threat to my organization. Then who all can be threat to my operations, specifically operations, again involving the person. Then we have to overall, we can select one complex product which will have a maximum number of processes, so that all small other process products can be covered in this. And based on that, we again assess what are the threats to my product or its manufacturing process. We need to again make a detailed flow chart. Now this flow chart, again, as I told you earlier, is not only related to the production process. It starts from purchasing, from your supply chain till the distribution. So it should be a complete flow chart where you have to see who all key staff members are involved, what are the vulnerable points. Based on that, we identify what could be the impact of those threats and identify which are the points or which are the areas which are most critical. Similarly, you have to identify in all your supply chain what are the areas which are vulnerable for any kind of attack. Then you have to identify likelihood, impact, again the risk assessment part. Based on, you set the priority, then you decide who will do which work. That is why for all key processes, important processes, we always try to keep people who are most trusted, most experienced, and we have full trust on them. Then based on these identification of risk and priority, we decide on the control measures, then we implement necessary controls. Need to regularly, because this cannot be a one-time system. New kind of threats based on the overall environment of the area or the country can come. So you regularly need to review and revise them and see what are the new emerging risks. And again, you have to start with the whole. So this is only an outline for your understanding. Definitely, if you want to tomorrow go for an implementation, you need much more minute details related to all of these steps. So these are the just steps which have been explained a little bit. So I'm not going to take it again. Now the critical controls. Now there are n number of controls you need to put, but these are only few critical controls which I am going to discuss. First of all, most important is to control access in your organization. So because if attacker has no access to their target, to your company, then it is assumed that attack cannot take place. But again, we cannot have full access. We cannot stop everybody's entrance or access to the organization. We need to work also. So the maximum physical measures we can take, we should take to limit the access. Then another important critical control is tamper detection. Tamper detection means our system should be such that we can immediately detect any tamper related to raw material storage, product storage, related to in any distribution vehicle or packaged foods. So our system should be tamper evident. In case of this tamper detection, though attacker has gained access and he has done something, but this tamper evidence gives us chance so that we can detect it timely and to avoid the impact. Though may have done something, the product is still under my organization, it is still not distributed or dispatched, and I have identified that tamper, so the impact will definitely be lessened. So this tamper detection is also very important, and the ways to do this and how to maintain this and how to implement that, you have to see as per your type of products. Then assuring personal security, we have already discussed this term. Personal security is in the terms that whenever you recruit people, you have to ensure the security. You have to check their background. Okay, so personal security guidance is used to mitigate the insider threat to the organization. So whenever we hire
அவங்கள்ட்ட பேசுறீங்களா லாஸ்ட் எப்போ உங்க வீட்டுக்கு வந்தாங்க அப்படினா 1 வீக் முன்னாடி தான் வந்தாங்க சும்மா வந்து
Yes, please.
Hello, please mute.
Okay, we'll have question answer round at the end, so that once we complete all information sharing on this topic, we'll have a question answer round, then we can discuss further. Now this related to again personal security. Once we hire people, checking the background, everything, we keep monitoring also. Okay, so our trust on particular person who is doing a critical activity or who have maximum access, they should be trusted to comply with the specifications and procedures. Now in vulnerability assessment, as I told you earlier also, we have to make a list of all of our raw materials, whatever we are handling. Then we have to map out our supply chains. We have to know about our suppliers. We have to see what are the, we evaluate risk and see what are the raw materials which can be a source of food fraud. So every raw material may not have similar kind of risk. For example, raw materials which we are receiving in the processed form, or raw materials which are receiving in the diluted form or a powder form, there might be risk of some kind of substitution. Raw materials which are receiving whole, like if you are receiving whole chili, making any spices or something, so there is a less risk of any fraud or any substitution or any dilution. So depending upon your type of raw material, you have to evaluate the risk. Then see some controls to control our suppliers, which we have adopted in HACCP systems or food safety system. We have to see whether we need to have some additional controls for that. Then regularly we have to review them, record our findings, and annually again we have to review our vulnerability assessment related to raw materials. Now how risk should be mitigated? Now this risk mitigation thing is common for any kind of risk in the world. This is not only for this particular subject, but still we just have to review that different mitigation is either we avoid the risk, we reduce the risk, we share the risk, or we retain the risk or accept the level of risk. So just take an example. For example, in terms of again food defense, I am discussing food defense and food fraud. For example, in my organization, I am taking refined oil in a bulk container, in a tanker, and we are unloading it in a tank outside the production premises, though within the boundary of the organization, but in the external premises, we have a storage tank and we are receiving the bulk container or bulk tank for this refined oil. It takes around 1 to 1.5 hours to unload that particular material, and we have one security guard which is monitoring that process. So this kind of system is there in my company. I'm just taking a random example. Okay, now if we say avoiding the risk by ceasing activity or removing the source. Avoiding the risk means I will change it. Okay, I don't want to take this risk. So what I'll ask my supplier, okay, you provide me in drums which I can store inside. I don't want to get it in the bulk container or bulk tanker so that I don't have to store it outside. So I'm removing that source. Okay, I'm not taking in that way. By not commencing the activity, okay, I'm not going to use refined oil in my formulation if it is not that much required. So I'm totally not taking that activity because of consideration of risk. Reducing the risk means I want to definitely, I may not work without that particular item. So I want to reduce it. So how I can reduce? Okay, I have designed system in such a way that my storage tank of oil is inside my inside my production area, so that there will be access control and supervision will be better. Many people will be available to supervise the activity, except only security guard is not there. So I'm trying to reduce the risk by implementing some countermeasure. Then sharing the risk, again, supplier may not provide me in drums or some other easy way out. So I am outsourcing this particular process to another organization who is taking in bulk, then repacking in drums and then sending it to me. Because I'm not having full surety that my system can manage this risk well. So I'm sharing the risk with another party. Retaining the risk or accepting the level means, again, I allow this kind of activity. Okay, let it be happen, because I am confident enough that whatever practice which is going on, or I will increase the number of security guards during the unloading of oil. So I want to retain the risk, accept the level, and I want to take that decision that I can improve my monitoring and verification activity, and I am pretty sure that this risk can be managed. So these are the different ways how you can try to mitigate the risk, so that its impact in case anything happens gets lower. So this is again a summary of the risk mitigation measures. So overall, effective food security system comprises of this. For any good organization who is, very concerned about his consumer, about food safety, food defense, they will have a kind of combination of all these measures. So first is sound food safety practices, that is your HACCP. Then TACCP, VACCP, what we discussed. some norms related to TASSUP and WASSUP. Then careful recruitment, prudent recruitment. Then a good management culture, inclusive culture. So people, tomorrow you're enough confident that we have a very good internal environment and a culture, and we know people are not revengeful in any time, at any time with the organization. Then secure and tamper evident stores and packs. That is also a very important part of food defense. Secure boundaries, positive identification of people. Okay, so you know what kind of people you're hiring and what kind of treatment they are getting, so you can identify the proper positivity in that. Then secure storage, audited stock of chemicals or anything which is not of food grade quality, or which can be a threat. If any insider wants to take any revenge and he's using some chemical and just putting into the mixing tank or something, so we have the proper chemical policy and audited stocks of chemicals, protected process control and information systems like password protected every information system. For that, organization can go for ISO 27001. This is not mandatory, but they can have some kind of information security. If they know that they have some intellectual property, if anybody hacks that, it will affect my overall business. So it depends upon the, again, type of industry. Then effective sensory evaluation. So even in case of threat, sometimes we have quality issues which can be identified with immediate effect. Then rehearsed crisis and continuity procedures. So regular system to, like mock recalls or mock fire drills. Similarly, we should have a system so that we can rehearse in case of any crisis or continuity procedures. We need to recheck time to time. So these are the key things which needs to be there for a complete security of your food system. Now, what is the basic objective of TASSUP WASSUP? We have already understood from the previous slide. Just to have a summary, first of all, to reduce the likelihood of a deliberate attack, intentional attack, to reduce the consequences or impact. First of all, we have to avoid the attack. If by chance something happens, to reduce consequences. Please mute your audio. Then product organization reputation. As I told you, consumer is not concerned how you get this threat or how you get this food safety or food defense issue. Consumer only knows the end product. So it protects the organization reputation. Again, assure customers, press, public overall, or interested parties will have the assurance that proportionate steps are in place to protect the food. It satisfies your international expectations also. Demonstrate that company has reasonable precautions taken in the organization in protecting foods, identifying specific threats, which is very important. As soon you start implementing or considering these systems, you always start what are the specific threats to the company's business. Then decide upon the proportionate or adequate controls, which are very much required to discourage the attacker and give early or immediate notification of any planned attack. So these are the key objective of both TASSUP and WASSUP. Both the things, though they are many times taken separately, but definitely they are interrelated, because TASSUP in a broader sense, if you see, it covers WASSUP part also, because in that we covers the food fraud related things also. It covers raw material threat assessment kind of thing. So definitely both the systems, they go side by side. We cannot avoid one and work for other. So this kind of details related to this TASSUP and WASSUP, how to identify threats and mitigate their occurrence. We have various documents available. Like one of them is PAS 96, which is a BSI standard. Then we have GFSI guidelines for these. We have FSMA, FDA's, US FDA has guidance on this. So in any time when you decide to work on these systems in detail, you can refer those documents. Okay, thanks a lot. Now I'm stop sharing and see if any questions are there in the chat box. Anything you want to add, Mr. Yogesh?
There are two questions. One is pertaining to, can you show the TASSUP team responsibility at the end, which you skipped, if you have time?
Actually, those responsibilities, okay, I can show you. Those are the same responsibilities what we have shown in this outline process na. So TASUP team has a responsibility to act on points from 1 to 15. The same is just explain what I explained without showing, that evaluate all new information, identify individuals or groups threat to organization, then similarly identify individuals to the specific operations which are threat. Then you have to select a product which is representative of a particular process, then identify individuals that want to target the specific product. So there might be risk that this specific product has high vulnerability for any kind of attack. This particular kind of process is handled somewhere which is, you know, outside the plant area or something like that. So we have to see those things. Then our detailed flow diagram, whole flow chart should be visible, means from supply chain to distribution. Special attention or a particular attention is required to give to less transparent parts of the supply chain. The same thing what we discussed in that process, those points are given in a points again. Then possible threats related to product, points where the threat would have the most effect. Again, most vulnerable points we have to see. Based on that, we assess the likelihood and score the likelihood and see the impact, and we can score the impact. Again, this involves your risk assessment methodologies, whatever risk assessment methodology you have. So when you go for the detailed trainings and awareness of these kind of topics, we further go into detail of how you can make these kind of risk assessment charts. Am I clear with this?
Another question is, madam, does
Yes.
TASUP and VASAP go hand in hand with HACCP only, or only to satisfy requirement of FSMA, such as food defense and intentional
So generally,
adulteration?
these all three work together. These all three work together. You are very much concerned with threat, but any unintentional adulteration from your end, which may be due to unawareness or improper knowledge or inadequate knowledge, can ultimately lead to a threat. If you assess the threat, one threat could be that people are not enough insider or not enough trained to control the food safety hazard. So generally, these all three systems go side by side.
One Swastika Thakur asked, can you please differentiate between TASUP and VASAP by giving one example?
We have taken a food fraud to control a particular fraud which is related to my raw material. Vulnerability, what are the materials, what are the things which are vulnerable to the any kind of fraud, that comes under vulnerability assessment critical control point. Threat assessment is a broader term which covers all kind of threats which affects my business related to, again, food. Okay, so that the aim of this
2 किलो दे एटीएम ना लेते हैं मतलब 2 किलो देना मैं देता हूं पैसे.
Please mute your audio. Am I clear with this? Now, one question is difference between risk assessment in HACCP and TASUP. The risk assessment methodology in every system remains same. Okay, the methodology is same related to likelihood. You have to identify what are the chances of this kind of threat or attack to my organization, to my process, and what could be the impact. Same thing we follow in HACCP also.
Yeah, you need to understand what is the approach to different risk, and therefore,
yes, your threats, your vulnerabilities will vary, but risk assessment methodology, one or in most of the cases, remains same. Yes. Our next question I can see. Any recommendation for training or certified organization on these topics and HACCP to understand? We are there always. We are doing a lot of trainings. We have 1-day training, 2-day training on HACCP and TASUP. You can always contact us. Under CC also we are doing. Otherwise,
actually,
also
the madam has compressed this whole VASAP and TASUP in this 40 minutes.
Yeah, because
a single topic can be going into one full day.
Yeah, one full day. Even if we have to go, we need to do some kind of practice, we go for 2 days also. 1 day totally for TASUP and this thing. Then second, then how to monitor them, verify them. That is also very important. So these are big subjects, but at least for beginning, for understanding, you can start thinking on these lines in your industry.
Mr. DK is asking, share details of future courses, we have
Yeah, we'll
seminars
do that.
lined up. We have seminars lined up till the month end. Tomorrow there will be no seminar. You can go, you can come on this on the same time with the same link. Topics are definitely different every day, and you can be enriched with your knowledge about these topics.
Now let me see the question of Shefali. She said, as we updated our HACCP due to COVID, very right. Is there any chance of some ideological threat because of same situation which have to treat through TASAP? Now, ideological in the sense, ideological threat again, okay, I am by chance, God save me, by chance I am, corona positive and I want to harm the organization and the, my colleagues in some way. I am revengeful. So even knowing my situation, I am going to the industry, not informing them and keeping that issue. That can be a threat. That is why we start working with the people. Every risk assessment starts with the people. If you see at every step, it is risk to the overall risk to the organization, to every process. So it involves a lot of human intervention. That is why I told you that this is not a very technical part. This is more of, IQ and brain or detective nature or these kind of things help you. How can we make VASAP and TASAP plan? Yeah, few things are common, but definitely in this HACCP plan, you are identifying type of hazards. Similarly, in VASAP and TASAP, you are taking type of frauds and type of threats. So that difference would be there definitely.
Anybody who do not want to type and ask question, may unmute and now ask a couple of questions.
Yeah. We still have 5 minutes.
Yes, we have time. Any questions can be raised.
Good evening, Umesh Naik here. Can I have a question?
Yeah, please carry on.
While this was very interesting, there was one particular slide which talked about the attackers.
Yeah.
So I was trying to understand, those have to be evaluated both for the VASAP and TASAP study. So it is not only for TASAP.
No, these overall what I'm saying is both VASAP and TASAP are the, you can say, methodology or approach to handle this food fraud and food defense. Okay, so that's why we said that both of them go side by side. VASAP is more concerned with the vulnerabilities related to my material.
Information, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then see you on Wednesday. Thank you.